So yeah, I mean Prince William has now come out and penciled himself very much into the sort of Daily Mail position. Let's face it. I think when it comes to this notion that we should concentrate on saving our planet and not worrying about space travel and this sort of thing, and marking himself out in the process as I think an enemy of science, someone who isn't that understanding of science, and someone who doesn't really kind of understand the extent of where our science in general has come to over really an incredibly brief period of time. It's got to be remembered that prior to the 20th century, or somewhere in actually the middle of the 20th century, we didn't really know how old the Earth was. We've discovered very recently that the universe had a beginning, and that we now have estimates of things like there being 93, well, it's what, 100 billion galaxies or so, is it, in the observable universe? Each of which contains 100 billion stars or so on average. Like, you look upon discoveries like this and you think, like, that all that has been made possible by our endeavours in space. We understand things like this, and we understand, that stars explode and form and recollapse, and that there are pulsars out there and things like this. That's it's all aided by sophisticated scientific instruments that we're capable of putting in orbit around the planet. Yeah, things like climate modelling rely on satellite data. If we're going to set about saving this planet, how do we do it without that technology, without those measurement capabilities that we have as a result of having satellites capable of studying the atmosphere of the planet and weather systems and ocean currents and gauging things like the recession of the ice caps in Antarctica and the Arctic. If that's what we're looking at on whatever day it is, whenever I do sort of dip into like climate research and things like this, like a lot of websites come up, like websites like NASA come up a lot. Yeah, I mean, come on, like please think about this. And we got overpopulation at the moment. Well, maybe we need other places to move people to if they want to go there and start colonizing alien worlds. And there is something so much further beyond. And by the way, it's like as if to say like the two are mutually exclusive. Do you know what I mean? Like we spent £197 billion a year on the National fucking Health Service, and guess how much we spend, or I guess how much the European Space Agency spends a year. Their annual budget is €6 billion or so. That we're not actually doing anything in space. I think we got BAE Systems. Is that in administration? I don't think it is. That's a private company, is it not, in the UK? It isn't in administration, but like even if it were, they also work on the defence and aircraft, and that's a big part of our budget. And we've got a little space division of me. That's what BAE Systems is. It's like a broom cupboard somewhere in BAE Systems' big office block near Bristol, whatever it is. And there's like space on it. Like there's one guy in there with like a wispy moustache. Like, I'm an aeronautical engineer. I'm a rocket scientist. And he's got a wizard's hat on and a slide run. It's just like, fucking hell, it's Ian, whatever. And like, we do fuck all in space. The Americans do loads of it. The Russians used to actually be incredibly good at it. Actually, probably better than the Americans on average, I think. Was there I can't remember the name of their space shuttle off the top of my head. Oh well. Yeah. Solar panels. For goodness sake. Like that all came from like satellites and space programs. Yeah, to give things electricity in space. NASA pumped huge amounts of money into solar panels. They're far more cost effective to produce, but far more efficient and effective. they optimize that technology? Does it need, like, they need that? Like, I'm currently working on trying to optimize wind technology for Mars because Mars is very windy. So like this creates a possibility of being able to harness huge amounts of energy I need, and I'm thinking of turbines, of course, but probably not the sort of wind turbines that you'd see dotted around the landscape and in the ocean or in the sea. Probably more like imagine a jet engine. When these big Martian storms come along, and within that some kind of mechanism like fans, turbines, etc. Because I don't think Mars is all that windy all the time, but it's extraordinarily windy during dust storms. You'd have to sort of harness those somehow. I think if you wanted power. And I'm not so optimistic actually about nuclear energy on Mars. There's no geothermal, and there is solar, yes, but it's quite a bit further away from the sun than the Earth is. Fusion, I don't see it happening. I don't see it becoming energy efficient. That's just a problem. Then there's the burning of fossil fuels, which, yes, is also possible on Mars. You could do that. But you need a big source of fossil fuels in the galaxy to do that. Would you not? So, what like an asinine, like trite throwaway comment. Like, focus on this planet, don't focus on space. Like, well, Starlink. Elon Musk is trying to get internet to the furthest reaches of the planet. To try to get it everywhere. We're trying to get remote internet worldwide. Get online anywhere. What's this? What could this have the capability to do? Bring to remote regions. We could live anywhere. Then. And communicate and work with one another and work on. For example, we could be self-sufficient. You could live off-grid in Patagonia, and have like a water pipeline pumping you fresh water for irrigating your own crops if you want to live in such a state, possibly one day, and it could denucleate the planet, and that really is the potential of innovation such as the internet and personal computing, which was brought about by guess whom? NASA. Yeah, the personal computer, yes, was invented by NASA. Now, what did that do? Changed the world. And the internet, I believe, was invented by DARPA. It was originally called ARPANET. And then CERN developed their own version of it. It was European Centre for Nuclear Research. And then Sir Tim Berners-Lee invented the Hypertext Transfer Protocol, which enabled personal computers to, in essence, access the memory banks of other personal computers, and this is where we have websites, and that's more or less it, over telephone lines. Oh, for fuck's sake, you're already a reactionary. You're already in a little trench of just being out of touch, being really out of touch. I mean, unable to look at the modern world around you and see what it does, which way the wind is blowing. And by the way, people with a sophisticated education in the sorts of problems that we are facing as a species currently, we know that they are possible to solve. We have the solutions for them. We've had them for a while, actually, but I mean, there's been a very conspicuous lack of political will in their uptake until actually somewhat recently. And like now it's getting there, but it's a very much a linear curve. There's nothing exponential going on. It's a constant grind to push it forward and to keep pushing it forward. And yeah, we're talking about things like renewables and all this sort of stuff, and yes, making things sustainable. We do understand the importance of that, very much so. However, also, you need to take into consideration the fact that we have made progress, big progress in the UK with renewables, for instance. 43% of our country's energy comes from renewable sources. That's very good. Like, we do seriously need to address the problem of our use of crude oil-derived petrochemicals in our vehicles, though. That is a big, big problem. And conversions to electric, conversions to hydrogen, possibly also, electrolysis stations, and yes, ramping up things like small-scale wind technology, which I think would be perfectly adapted to, guess where? Mars. And yes, we do need to do these things. And also, I just find it insufferably... it's an insufferable form of philistinism, in my opinion. A philistinism and a lack of interest and understanding in science, in, really what the extent of science is, and the extent of understanding about nature and seeking to push that forward. And a failure to adopt a post-Enlightenment thinking and post-industrial scientific thinking. And the astounding progress we have made in our cosmology, our astronomy, our physics, biology, chemistry, etc. And this sort of thing, like, we are now engaged directly in the process for searching for life on alien worlds. We will be among the generation to find life on an alien planet if there is such a generation. And people, like myself, I'm working on a project now, potentially to bring far larger telescopes to space, so that we can study, if we need to, the atmospheres of alien worlds to a greater extent, or maybe even send probes there and work on the technologies capable of doing that. And I'm talking about linear accelerator and a parachute, basically. But I mean, and would you not love to see the Earth from space? Would you not like to regularize this technology? As if, yes, we are capable of building rockets the size of the Empire State Building to take large ships to space, crewed by many people, and not just a handful of astronauts. And yes, get to the outer solar system. And yes, ultimately get to different solar systems, since it is possible.